A podcast. My timing might have been slightly off on the intro there because James's recording this streaming, not me this morning. So apologies if you missed my dulcet tones there, the first 3 or 4 words of my monologue there. I'm sure you're devastated, but I want to welcome you on this Monday morning to the Manchester United podcast. And this is a glorious Monday morning where I'm still higher than an East German weightlifter after after this result yesterday. I put out a tweet Jamesy Saturday night. I said, I don't care how it comes. I don't care if it's a last minute winner, a dodgy decision, or a shit house. I just want to have at the end of the game more goals in the opposition. And
Yes.
United won. And of course, the typical Manchester United tradition, they don't make it easy.
No, for sure, for sure. Though I will say, certainly, I do think as well it was a deserved win. We'll break it down and all that, but I think United earned the victory. But it was good to see. I mean, a win against Chelsea at
Hmm.
home. I was worried. It's been, I think, 13 years since Chelsea have beat United at home. During even this entire
It's
horrid period
insane,
of
that, isn't
time,
it?
they've managed to keep up winning or not losing against Chelsea at home, and somehow we've managed again. And I think when you have that win, everything we're always doing and discussing is always almost framed by recency bias. It's just natural
Hmm.
to do that in anything in life. But at the same time, when you only have in something like a Premier League season, when you're only at 5 data points, one is very significant. Each data point becomes really
Absolutely.
significant, overly significant, but effectively hard to do anything but make it overly significant when there's only 5 games have happened. And for me, I feel I'm very happy they won. I mean, obviously very happy they won because I want them to win every game, but
Sure.
certainly it gives you a little bit of a different outlook on where things are going to and where they can go, I guess, as well.
I'm recording this on my phone. Normally I'm doing this at home at my own office, so
Yep.
I don't have Jamie with me that I can just shout and have to Google shit that now for stats and facts, right? So you're gonna have to do this, so I might be a wee
That's
bit off
okay.
today, but but you're right, one win changes the entire complexion. And I was having an argument with you last week, and disagreements, I would say, about
Sure.
Ten Hag and where United were when he gets sacked, and
Mhm.
he gets sacked in October, wasn't it? So,
Yeah, yep. Yeah, like the next
was
break essentially just afterwards
yeah,
that. Yeah.
we aren't a million miles away from October,
Yep.
and I was thinking in my head, Ten Hag was only 4 points off top four, but
Mhm.
wait, how many points is Ruben Amorim off top four right now?
Less than that. It's
Yeah,
2, I think, so it's like
so I'm like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like how you can manipulate stats. And let me
Mhm.
say this, I've been a major critic of Amorim, but let me just say this, James, I can't emphasize this enough. I would love to never talk about the manager's job for
Yeah,
another
it
10,
would be
15,
nice.
20 years, right?
Yes.
I would love to be in a position where that's not a discussion and Ruben
Mm,
Amorim is super successful. And,
yep.
I don't care who's right. I just care what's right. And
Yep.
I was delighted for him. United, let's say, there's a lot of silly, stupid narratives in the paper, in the media about
Yeah.
with 10 men and all this nonsense. Well, first of
Mhm.
all, that's not Manchester United's fault that their goalkeeper got sent off,
Yeah.
right? What do you want them to do? Does anyone count the times when United lose when they're
Yeah.
playing with 10 men?
Yeah.
Um,
Or all the keeper
and
mistakes we've had every
yeah,
single week that have, been as consequential. But
well,
but even then, it's like
but
it
Burnham was
wasn't
only
an
like for 25,
unforced and
30 minutes. It was only
I
like for
know,
30
I
minutes
know.
anyway.
And it
And
wasn't unforced. This wasn't like we'll get to the Casemiro and his red in a minute. This wasn't an unforced red card. It's a goal or
yeah,
it's a red card at that point in time, and he chose the red card. Like, they created that situation that
yes,
resulted in that.
yes, 100%. It wasn't some, egregious error by VAR that, United
Yeah,
benefited. This was a Stonewall red card for a very,
yeah.
very good reason. And, the thing is, United had also started really well in that game.
Mhm.
And
Again, yeah.
yeah, and so that's what caused the issue in the first place, which gave them the advantage.
Yeah.
Casemiro getting sent off. What Casemiro? I agree completely with Ruben Amorim. By the way, you're talking about a five-time Champions League winner. Every single one of us were looking at that. I don't know if it did the same for you, but it reminded me of Fred v PSG when I was screaming at
Yeah,
Solskjaer to take him off, take him off, take him off. And then he gets sent off predictably and, of course, changed the game. But with Casemiro, we were all thinking it, take him off, take him off, take him off. But then at the same time, you're looking at that from Amorim's perspective. He's got enough experience to know what to do and what not to do.
yes,
And knowing that the referee is looking for a reason to send you
correct.
off after he sends Sanchez off, right? He's
Yep,
already
and you're
sent the
on a
Chelsea
yellow.
goalkeeper
It's
off.
like,
Yeah, he's looking for a reason. Is
yeah,
that a second yellow? No, right?
probably
It's
not.
not a second. It's just it's a nothing area of the pitch, right? It's wet day. He pulls someone over. You know, you look at some of the things that got yellow cards, like who was it went over the ball, straight studs into the ankle? Or was it Enzo Fernandez? Um,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, my memory fails me here, which is not the first time, but there was numerous
I think
incidents
you're right. Yeah,
in that game yesterday where yellow cards were given for incidents that were much worse than what Casemiro did. To me,
I
that's not a
agree
second yellow
with you
card,
on that. Yeah, correct. I do agree with that. Yep,
and that's where the game changed.
yep,
I mean, up to that, James, up to that point, that was the most enjoyable game I've watched United play in a long, long time. Where I was like,
for sure.
What is this?" I would like
Hmm.
to see 3, 4. Amorim gets criticised for the substitutions that he makes, but Amorim's job yesterday was to win that fucking game.
Correct,
Just win
correct.
that game.
Once
I'm
it went
sorry.
down to
That's it.
10 and yeah. And look, I mean, the part of that facet of it, like saying touching on Casemiro, it is kind of that thing where you're like, oh, he's on a yellow, take him off. But at the same time, like you say, you're looking at somebody, what,
Hmm.
five-time Champions League winning. You just got to know better. Like you said, it was an inconsequential part of the pitch, and that's where you make the argument both ways. Like, why give the ref something to think about? You
Hmm.
don't even touch the guy. Just let him run. There's no danger. Let it go. It was silly. But in terms of winning the game, you're up 2 goals to 0.
Yeah.
You're at home.
Yeah.
You're facing 10 men. It's easier to
Hmm.
set up a deep block against 10 men because
Yeah.
when you have 10 men, you can usually defend with just as many players, but you don't attack with as many players.
Hmm.
So it's easy to defend when you have 10 and you're facing a 10-man team than to keep trying to attack because there's going to be different dynamics. And the job was to win. When
Hmm.
United played Arsenal in that second half, Arsenal
Hmm.
went deep the whole game, deep block. 66% possession United had in the second half. When
Hmm.
United played City just last week, City deep block that second half. United had 70% possession.
Yeah.
When Arsenal played City at the weekend, City went so deep in the same game, defending
Hmm.
a 1-0 lead, and they didn't even succeed. They ended up conceding and ending up 1-1. It's no
I mean,
problem for United to do it. Everybody does it. You in the second half of a game, your goal is to win. You're up 2 goals. You defend. It's fine.
that's what top teams do. They know how to
Yeah.
close a game out.
Yep.
And even after Chelsea scored, you're thinking, here comes the Alamo. And they never did. They
No.
never sustained. There was one, I think, the 93rd minute went by and Deere palms that ball
Yeah,
out
that was a little
where it was a bit
scary moment.
ropey.
Yeah.
But okay, after Chalobah scores, I'm thinking they're going to get it one more chance. That's going. That's what you should expect, even if they're playing Liverpool.
Yeah.
Oh, Liverpool wouldn't have had 9 minutes added on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
They got 3 when they're winning, but it's
yeah, apparently that time works differently over there.
yeah.
But 9 minutes, just like the 4-3 game, 9 minutes, right? And I don't know where 9 minutes came from in the second half, by the way. But anyway, they showed composure. They saw
Yeah.
that game out. They had to win the game. And one of the things that I said in that other message was, I don't want to see United um, lose or draw a game and be unlucky. The
Yeah.
unlucky winners. I'm sick of that. Right? Just
Yeah.
shithouse it. Right?
Yes,
Shithouse the
exactly.
win. Get the win. Right? Take the 3 points. It's against a team that were unbeaten this season. United are sitting. They've already played Chelsea, Arsenal, City. I mean, that's the toughest start of any team in the Premier League. Right?
Yep.
They've got those games out of the way.
Yes.
Obviously, the Liverpool, Brentford, Sunderland, Liverpool and stuff coming up. Liverpool game be tough, but
Of course.
you know if United were to win this weekend, James, right against Brentford, which is not beyond the realms of possibility, it completely changes the narrative around Amorim and the type of start that he's had. Because you could easily turn around and say this is a positive start if they pick up 3 points next season or next week. I
Yeah.
think what really hurt him in the assessment was the Grimsby result,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he could have got away with the Arsenal result, could have got away with the City result, but the Grimsby result was, really, really difficult for him. And it completely, I think that done more to destroy morale and confidence than any of the other results. But hey, back-to-back wins at home, and I I'm feeling a certain way today that I haven't felt in quite a while watching it.
Yeah, I agree, and it is interesting you say that on the Grimsby result, because I do kind of agree. It's like you have this big whopping like horrible thing that's happened kind of in the middle, where
Hmm.
you say if you went into the season and said, look, in your first 5 games, you're getting Arsenal, you're getting City, you're getting Chelsea, you're going to beat Chelsea but lose to Arsenal and City. Most people would say, yeah, that's about what we'd expect, even at best.
Yeah,
To get one win out of those 3, you probably wouldn't expect more than that. But you have this kind of albatross of that Grimsby game, and ironically, just in my opinion, others can disagree on this. The Grimsby game and result is the least reflective of a manager when you're playing in a
I
game
would
like
agree with
that.
that. Yes,
That
100%.
is the
Yes,
least
yes,
reflective, but it
I agree
has
with you on
it
that.
gives you this feeling that everything's bad, because it's
Hmm.
really hard to blame a manager when a team loses to a 4th-tier
I
team. I
completely
just don't
agree with you
think
on
you
that.
can. It's like players the players should be
Yes,
able to
that's
turn up
fair.
managerless, you know what I mean, and win a game
100%.
like that. So,
100%.
but it's fair, and I think that it's like you say, the next game. I think the next game then has the ability to really change that dynamic. If United win, because they're the early kickoff on Saturday, which will be very early, 4:30 a.m. for you, 5:30 a.m. for me. It's one of those games where, for me, when I wake up that early, separate to all the circumstances, if they play like shit, it makes me feel so negative. It
Oh
makes me
man,
feel so bad.
you see at 4:30 threshold, mate, right? It's like purgatory, because it's like
Yeah.
if I'm out the night before, do I plow through and stay up and watch a match, or do I go to bed, right? And unfortunately, I often make the wrong decision there, and
Yeah.
be a consummate professional, no days off, and try to stay up. And then when United are losing this game,
You're
right?
like,
I'm
my
I'm not
fucking
in the
oh.
best position to be passing
Yep.
judgment on anything, especially even
Yep.
myself at that point. But
Yep.
yeah,
But
no,
also,
no,
given it's the early kickoff, if United win, they put themselves even on points for second. Obviously, that's before the rest of the games, but the context of that is like, wow, like
well,
that's not
but
bad.
just and one other quick positive of having a match at 4:30. The match this weekend was 9:30.
Yeah.
Well, my son's match was being played at the same time,
Yeah.
and his my son's team. I am not joking. Serendipitously, they concede a goal right when Bruno Fernandes scores. So I'm the dickhead parent on the sideline going, yes, 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 yes.
Oop,
I mean,
sorry, guys.
shit, I'm watching it. My kid's looking over at me like,
The fuck?
oh. So yes,
I'm with you.
I'm already I already told my kids, when like, hey, your superpower is drug and alcohol tolerance through the roof, right? Don't be looking, I'm gonna let you down, have low expectations of me as a parent, right? Because you're not splitting the atom anytime soon or anything like that. So just keep expectations low and I'll meet them. But no, again, yeah, like we said, if they win this game this weekend against Brentford, and that's a different Brentford team than the one that was under Thomas Frank, James.
Yeah, it
Right?
is.
I mean,
It
they're
is.
still a very good team, like, but I think that for United, what you were saying about the Grimsby thing with Ruben Amorim being the least reflective of a manager, right? And you're absolutely correct. I mean, if you're a player, you lost that game, right? If you
Yeah.
need a manager to make the percentage difference between you and Grimsby, then you belong at that level. Um, but I almost feel that Brentford is going to be more reflective and of where United are at than
Yep.
a loss against City. because these are the
Yeah.
games United couldn't win and haven't been able to win for a long. If United are good enough to go and control a game at Brentford and win, I would see that as far more. That is far more inferential to me, the where United are at, than going and beating City like we did last season away.
Yeah, I agree, because we had this thing last season. We can win
Mhm.
the big games. You can step up. It's more open. It's more all of that. But you look at the games, there's 84 points to be collected against non-top 6 teams every year. 84 points. That's almost enough to win a title some years, just by beating the small teams if you win every single game. And by small, I just mean outside the top 6, right? If you consider yourself as one of those top 6 teams. Those
Mhm.
are where most of the title winners pick up their points. I mean, back in the day,
Mhm.
if you look at a lot of the league wins under Sir Alex and all of these times, the big game record is not nearly as good as the small game record. They won so many points off of the small games, making sure they win all of them. Regardless, these are the games that define, I think, the season and define the direction. Because if you go into
Mhm.
Brentford after this and say, all right, we're on 10 points, you know,
Yeah.
that's good. That's really good
Yeah.
after 6 games. That's
Mhm.
that's European pace in terms of points. So you're doing the expected while you've had a difficult start with playing 3 very good teams already. You've got back-to-back wins, you've got progress, you've got the direction. You're beating the teams you're supposed to. Burnley, Brentford, the Fulham draw was a little tough, but you can get by that if you win this one. And I think it does provide a different kind of outlook. Last year, United went into this upcoming international break with 8 points, and that put Ten Hag's job under a lot of pressure. They're on 7 today, and they have Brentford and Sunderland. They have to, if they finish well above, if they go into this break with 8 points again, somehow a draw and a loss in those 2 games, it's going to add just as much pressure. It's going to add just
Oh,
as
it'll be
much,
excruciating.
if not more. It's going to be really hard to work through. But if you go into it with 11, 13, somewhere in that range, you have to say there's progress, right? Because that's the kind of the measuring stick we're looking for. Is not title winning, but progress. Are we getting better? And I think you'd say we would be.
Mhm.
You could feel more comfortable saying we are progressing if we can go out and win in the next week against Brentford, and probably as well we need to get some kind of result at Sunderland. I mean, they're a promoted side. We should be beating them as well.
Should be beating them. And these are, to me, if United can win these types of games, then you're right. We're talking about European form, but
Yep.
at the same time, if they lose these types of games, James, then it's completely deflates
You're still
morale.
questioning. Yeah.
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 Um, another one of the big talking points from the weekend, of course, was Kabi Mainoo and the fact
Hmm.
that Kabi didn't come in until last 5 minutes, and obviously
Yep.
the 9 minutes of injury time. Mama Lagarty, of course, came in and after Casemiro sending
At
off, which would
halftime. Yeah.
which would suggest that if Casemiro gets a we'll get 1 game suspension, 2 yellows.
Yeah.
That position will go to Agarte.
Right.
Um, this is quite worrying, James, because Kabi Mainoo, I thought, was probably United's best player when he came on against City. Um,
Hmm.
and it seems to me that the issue for Kabi Mainoo is he has to be better than Bruno Fernandes to get in this team.
Seems like it.
And to me, I don't want to lose an exceptional young player because he's not better than Bruno Fernandes. Like, this is a worrying situation because it seems to me that he's last choice midfielder.
Yeah, it is odd. It's sort of a unique circumstance. I'm not sure we've seen it before at United. Well, I wouldn't say not seen it before. I would say not seen it anytime recently, in essence, because we've rarely ever had a player of the quality and longevity of Bruno Fernandes since Sir Alex
Mhm.
retired. In this 13, 15-year period, you come into United's team, you perform well. You're not ousting someone of Bruno's quality more often than not. You're ousting somebody who's on the decline, who's leaving, who's old, who's not doing so well, or who is a failure in essence. I mean, I don't have the answer to this because, like, let's say Kobe Mainu was a striker and ahead of him was a Bruno level striker. What would be
Mm.
the answer here?
Well,
You know what I
let
mean?
me.
It's like I think because of the midfield, people assume you play multiple positions because it's more flexible, and so there should be a way to get in. But if it was a striker, how would we deal with it? or like a fullback, more specialized position. How would we deal with that?
Well, I think it depends. If you've got a young striker who, had this meteoric breakthrough and who's already played, who scored in cup finals, already played for his country at the Euros,
Yep.
and then you're putting him on the bench and I think you lose that player. I think that's what will
Yeah, I
happen.
hear that. Yeah, I hear that.
But with Kabi, what makes me question is he wanted a loan move, which makes me wonder, does he know that this is Bruno Fernandes's last season at United?
That's the question. Yeah,
Rather than
that's a good
wanting to leave,
question.
he obviously with the World Cup coming up, he wants to
Yep.
play, but didn't want to leave. Um, if United are struggling by January, it's very plausible that Bruno Fernandes will leave in January.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
or possibly at the end of the season. Obviously, Casemiro goes at the end of the season as well. But part of me wonders if he didn't want a permanent move or just a loan move because he's been told this is maybe Bruno Fernandes' last season at the club.
Well, and it would make sense, and this is where we're in this kind of like this kind of like time pressure World Cup problem that we essentially have here, that makes it a bit of a unique circumstance. Because if the plan is, hey, which personally I believe the plan to be, that's how I see it, because I think United want to keep him. They've tried to nail him down on a new contract. They've tried to do these things as well. They haven't been pushing him out the door. They didn't let him leave in summer. He wanted a loan, not a sale, wanted a loan, wants to play. It makes me think that what's being stated is, look, Bruno's not going to be here for much longer. And one way or another, this is your position to win and your position to take over for the future. You're only 20 years old. Look at the next 10 years, not 1 year, and say you could be the anchor for United's midfield for the next 10 years if you have a little patience. And I get that aspect too. The problem, of course, being that he is so talented and he's already come through and done so much. And then you've got this other issue at United, which has been a problem, which is we've been changing managers and ideas, and you have a whole new leadership. And so everything that happened before isn't that relevant, I guess, because you didn't do all of that under the current plan. You know what I mean? Like the current direction of travel for the club. And so, everybody's kind of started on a flat ground there in a way, and it's hard to supplant Bruno in that. I don't know what the right answer is, because while I'm very supportive of, like, personally, I would be totally fine with the idea that Kobbie Mainoo has to be patient, round out his game, improve, learn, and end up taking that role long term. That's all fine to me, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like it's fine to him. And I don't want to lose him either. So I don't actually I don't know the answer to this myself.
I think that he has an example of why he should be cautious with Alejandro Garnacho.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I look at Garnacho, James, he's on Chelsea's bench, and I'm going, okay, all the things that got you kicked out of United will not be acceptable at Chelsea. Okay, you're not going to be allowed, to walk around behaving like you're bigger than the club. Your brother's not going to be allowed to allegedly be leaking stuff on the internet. Your brother's not going to be allowed to be liking posts and saying no. So all the things that United were asking you to do, you're going to have to do for Chelsea to play there. And you're no longer the academy product at Chelsea.
Correct.
You're just another £40 million
Just a
player on their
signing.
bench that they have no attachment to. So now you have at United, you would get a lot of forgiveness because you're an academy graduate. You're still in that fledgling part of your career. But once you go to another club for that type of money, you get none of that grace.
Yeah.
And if there wasn't a part of Garnacho yesterday saying to himself, I should have stayed, then I would be amazed. Because, when we talk about Carlos Baleba, right, about whether that's impacted him, Chelsea being interested in Garnacho last season done exactly the same thing to him that's happening to Baleba. It got inside his head. And after he didn't get that move in January, he was never the same.
Yeah.
So he now is in a position, James, where I can't remember the kid's last good game. and he's going to have to perform at a level much higher than what he was at with United. And I'm just looking at him going, this shouldn't have happened like this. This should have got fixed.
Well, and it is that danger, you know. It's like it's. I mean, it's the basic thing. The grass is not always greener on the
Mhm.
other side. It just isn't necessarily, you know. And it's like, you know, if his complaint personally was, well, I didn't get enough minutes. Well, now you're getting none. You know, you're getting
Mhm.
none. That's not better. And you're at you know, and it's not always that simple because, like, you know, Chelsea, they're not singing your name from the stands like they were at United. That's never going to happen. You know, it's going to take years to earn that. United, to their credit, for the fans at the club, they're very quick to give so much encouragement to these young players,
Yeah.
especially if they've come through the academy. Sometimes it's too much, I think, in some ways, but they do it. And like you say, when you go to Chelsea, Garnacho, you're not an academy player anymore. You're a player that also those fans have seen play for the opposition multiple times over the years. They don't have an attachment to you. And it's the same for Kobe Mainu. I would also suggest it's not always that easy to get in. If Kobe Mainu were to join Chelsea, for example, he's not going to start over Enzo or Caicedo in that team either. You know, there's no clear role for him in a team like that right away,
No,
you know? And
I'm
it's
surprised. I'm surprised you didn't kick him out. He's sitting in Jadon Sancho's seat. That's his season ticket. The way they were jacking him. Did you buy his ticket? Did you buy a ticket off Jadon Sancho? Jadon was here. I bet he didn't get lost on the way to the bench anyway. No, sorry, mate. Go ahead.
No, but it's just saying it's not that easy. You know, I think Kobe Mainu would have had to drop down to a
Mm.
lower level, to not lower level like league, but a team in more, you know, you're thinking more mid-table, historically mid-table teams, to have this guaranteed starting spot, because it's, you know, when you look at all the big clubs, City, there's Rodri and Reindeers,
Yeah, they
and
already
you
have
know,
players in there.
Liverpool have them, Arsenal have their midfield set, Chelsea have their midfield set. There's not a lot. Even Tottenham, they have their quality of midfielders you could question, but they're very different to Kobe Mainu stylistically. So it's not that easy sometimes. The right option for him might just be just wait out Bruno Fernandes and work hard and earn your way into the team. I don't have a better answer in that respect.
I'll tell you what, mate. Speaking of Liverpool, I think we need to get the Doge team in there because that Florian Wirtz lad,
Oh
right? I
my
mean,
god.
we're going to have to reassess players coming from the Bundesliga, right? And how much we rate them because I'm looking at Wirtz going, son, I've yet to see anything from you. If I didn't know who you were, right, I would be wondering how you're getting in this thing. Anyway, if he was at
He
United,
looks like a
he'd be getting
child playing in the
slaughtered.
Premier League with his physical. He looks very
Yeah,
small, very weak in compared to these players.
he does. And he maybe this is just a really lazy pad comparison, but he just gives me Havertz vibes,
Yeah.
you know. And obviously, it's a lazy comparison. They both come from the same place, all that, and both look exceptional. You know, Leverkusen, and now you're looking at them going, "There's there." This is also something that I'm looking at a bit with Sesko, where I'm like, you can see. First of all, this kid has he played 90 minutes yet for United? I don't think
Well,
so.
he did in the cup, but that was his
Yeah,
first start. And yep.
okay, so but it just looks to me like there's still a big adjustment period for him.
Yeah.
But Cesco's big, you know, a big
He's
lad.
physical. He's got the
Yeah,
tools. Yeah.
and so if you look at this United team that he's playing in, if you would forgive me for just a second to borrow a stat called chances created after last week's um discussion, and I refuse to admit that this stat being relevant, but the chances created for his like successful James gives me more encouragement that he's playing in a team where he can get goals where, you know, it's
Yep.
not like what we were seeing last season where United players were starved. So I'm encouraged in that sense. And one if he needs a couple of goals and then you'll see a different player. Pressure will be taken off him. But you know, he'd still feel he has some adjustment to do there. But let me ask you about Mnachester,
Mm.
because player who's been getting a lot of praise recently, and he's sort of been getting it subtly, James, because he's just been subtly very, very good. Um, consistently very, very good. We're not outstanding one week and then average the next. He's
Correct.
staying fit, consistent, and is is becoming one of, if not one of United's most important defender, one of the most.
Yeah, and he might be the best player this season so far because he's the
Mm,
only one I would say who's leveled that amount of consistency every single week at that
mhm,
level. And because he's a defender, one of the things he's doing that goes under the radar is like the old thing. I don't know, was it Maldini who said if he has to make a tackle or whatever, it's too late or something?
mm,
You're not seeing these last ditch savior tackles that I think sometimes get overly praised from defenders where they're throwing themselves, which is not a bad thing to do. Don't get me wrong, but what he's doing for the most part is he's being so aggressive and he's being very he's very smart. He's very intelligent in
mhm,
his defending. He's sniffing things out. He's shutting things down. He's stepping up and playing aggressively to cut off passes, to assist in the press before there's danger. So there's never he's ending moments before they become dangerous, which sometimes goes under the radar versus the slides, the dives, these types of things. And
mhm.
and he's doing it just exceptionally well. Every action he's taking it feels really crisp. It feels clean. And what I'm most impressed with him this season is his passing range because I've never
Mhm.
seen him do that last year. He did not have this passing range last year. It was one of my personally my big kind of critiques with him is I liked when Maguire was on very often because he'd be kind of pinging those long passes and things like that. And when he was off, it felt like we couldn't do that. This year, Delict's doing those. I mean, he's getting crosses into the box. He's doing big switches of play. The confidence is there, and yeah, I mean, he's been exceptional, and not just like stand out in a bad team, but in general, he's been one of the best center backs in the league that I've watched this year so far in his actions.
Let me ask you about then a Euro. Bruno Fernandes done an interview after the City game where he specifically referenced the fact that United centre backs didn't jump out, step out. And Euro is a kid, so he's not perfect. Do you think that he was dropped as a result of what happened at City?
I'm not. I think it probably played into a little bit. I mean, he did have a even in that single sequence when I watched it. I'm not totally sure Bruno was right, but he did have a tough
Mm,
game when I rewatched that City game back and looked at it. He got beat by Doku for that second goal. Was really a rough one where he let
mm,
Doku go on the inside of him to get that pass through to Holland he shouldn't have, and had a bit of a rough performance and got subbed off. I think, again, he's very young. He had such a good run last year. And at the start of Ruben Amorim's tenure, he was in and out of the team. He had a rough game against, I think it was Nottingham Forest. And then he came out and then he came
Was
back and
that the
out.
one
And
on Reed on that stupid fucking when he
yeah,
done that stupid,
yeah. He was
name?
getting
Yeah,
way too
sorry, go
much
ahead.
heat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he did have a rough game, but he was getting a lot of heat. And it was like, and so he went in and out and he got
Southampton
settled.
too at home. Sorry, mate. Go
Yes,
ahead.
yes. It
Yeah.
was one of those, maybe both. I
Yeah.
don't know, but they were tough games, and I think that to a degree, it's like he's still quite young. Take him out of the firing line a little bit, take some of the pressure off of him, put some experienced players in there. Um, to be fair, I think it's right. I mean, Ruben Amorim said he put Maguire in to deal with the crosses, the set pieces. As soon
Mm.
as Maguire came off, United conceded
I was going to ask you this. Do you think Euro
instantly.
was
Yeah.
responsible? Do you think Euro bears any responsibility for
He
Chalobah
does. He
scoring?
does. He didn't
Yeah.
do a great job on that, on defending that. And that's fair enough. Again, that comes with experience. I think in the open field, Lenny's fantastic on the ball. He's fantastic. Box defending against these big Premier League teams just takes time. It just takes time to learn. It's one of the toughest things to do.
You see, this is how you want mistakes to be made. If it's consequential in the result, then it's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
Then Euro's getting ruined,
Yes.
rinsed, destroyed.
Yep.
If you can bury those mistakes in a win, you can learn from them
Yep. You
without
just.
being destroyed and move
Yep.
on. And thankfully, that's what was able to happen. That was a big issue for Hoyland. If United had been
Yep.
winning games,
Yeah.
those, it would have been different. But yeah, look, I think he's a young defender. Being a United bought Phil Jones, bought him, central defender. They played him as a right back because he was 19. Obviously, United had exceptional centre backs back then, but they putting a young teenager in the middle, whether it's in midfield or in your centre back's position is very, very rare, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to be truly exceptional for a teenager to be getting into your, especially if you're a team that,
Yep.
with the size of United, it's very rare. Um, United wanted to play Phil Jones at right back for a while, get him game experience, and then move him over into centre back. But I think, young Euro's been exceptional. There is no footballer you can buy that doesn't make mistakes. Rio Ferdinand at his prime made mistakes. That's just part of life. But I can think of so many times where even one-on-one situations where he's been magnificent, and there's just so many positive attributes to his game. You look at the best centre backs in world football right now, James, where were they at 19? You know,
Yeah.
where was
Yep.
Virgil van Dijk at 19? I think he was still at Groningen. He hadn't joined Celtic yet. So, I I think he's going to be an amazing centre back for United for the
Yep.
next 5, 10 years. And hopefully they can keep a hold of him. Let me ask you about Ahmad, because it hasn't been a glittering season for him. And there was a couple of times where he's getting the ball in the final third. He's slowing play down and maybe over elaborating on the ball, taking too long on the ball to make a decision. And it just looks like he's short on confidence. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an odd one because it's just he's just missing the little things, the little actions that he would usually do that would come off
Mhm.
well. Like his shots, he's kind of whiffing or missing the ball on some of these attempts. The passes are he's taking a little too long on the dribble or the pass, or he takes the dribble and slightly too long a touch and it goes out the back instead of before he can get the cross in. He's doing a lot of things well. Like his pressing was really, really key against Chelsea there in that game. To even in the first 5 minutes, that ends up forcing where we ended up, and over that first half, really important with the pressing. He's doing a lot of good contributions. The first goal United score, he drops out of the box, turns, makes a really nice pass out to Mazraoui that gets the cross in that results in the essentially the first goal. So there's a lot of actions he's still doing well. He's still playing within the team, in my opinion. Well, he's just got to sort some things out. I don't know what you put it down to exactly, but it's obvious we've seen many times he has the ability to hit the passes and the shots he's missing right now. They're just not coming off. I think he's the player given what we know, that you just kind of have to keep playing him into form. I mean, we've seen Mbumo, who I think is extremely
I was going to
talented,
go there next year.
have ups and downs so far this season in his execution, where he's had really strong games and games where it's just not
Mm.
coming off. But he's very good. You can see it when it comes off. So I think for them, maybe it's just playing through it and continuing to form the relationships that, the maybe over Ahmad's, I think, an intelligent player. So now he's playing with Sheshko up front versus Hoyland, and there's differences in movements, differences in positions, and Mbumo too. To be fair, on that right side plays really different to whatever we had last season, which was a
Mhm.
mixture of 18 different people. Who knows who was playing there week in and out.
Mhm.
That extra second of thinking can screw everything up at high level, and make it and just throw your whole game off. So some of it, I think, is just forming those telepathic bonds you got to make from just spending time playing together.
Been really encouraged with Mpumo. I always feel like
Yeah.
something's going to happen when he gets the ball.
Yeah.
Right? I feel a threat that we haven't had before.
Yeah.
His direct running, which resulted in a penalty.
Yep.
He's had a couple of close calls with shots.
Yep.
Obviously he was pivotal in the win against Burnley, and he's he makes the defender defend, makes the
Yes.
defender makes them not take risks, and he's someone that I've been really really impressed with. Yet the really obviously Cunha had the injury, came back of course at the weekend, which was encouraging. Yet to really um yet to really fall in love with him.
Yep.
His obviously his momentum was interrupted. Is going to be very, very important going forward. I want to see him. It's a bit odd to me because it looked like whenever Sesko came off, that Bruno was the furthest, led the line, and
Yep.
Cunha still in behind. I thought it would have been in reverse, where Cunha would have been the furthest man forward. I'm not 100% sure how. people talk him being a 10, but to me, he's not a 10 in the, in the traditional sense, like an Ortega or, a De Bruyne type,
Yeah,
exceptional
correct. Yeah.
attacking midfielder creates. I'm not quite sure how to label Cunha yet, but his energy, his attitude, and I think his quality is going to be really, really important over. I think hopefully by the time play Brentford, he will have got a little bit of match sharpness back and bring new momentum to the front line. But yeah, Bournemouth made very, very, very encouraged by what I've seen so far from him.
Yeah, he's scary. You need that in your team. You need players who scare the opposition defenders. And like we were talking about before, like I think we spoke about this last season. Like we needed front line where you go, that's someone we have to
Mm.
defend against. And United have been missing that. Guys who look like they have match winning quality, who, are just, oh, every time they touch the ball, you're like, all right, got to lock in on this player, and figure out what to do
Mhm.
here. I would be really hopeful against Brentford that we get to see for the first time the intended front three, because we haven't seen it yet. Cunha with the injuries, with Šeško arriving late and in and not being ready. We haven't seen Cunha, Šeško, and Mbumo play together in that front three. And I think they're all growing into the game a bit more and a bit more. I'd really like to see that front three against Brentford, because I think when they get going, you look at the size of Šeško and the speed of Mbumo and put all these pieces kind of together. I think it becomes an incredibly difficult task for any team to defend. And given we really haven't had the front three going yet, it's well due time to do that and see if can we take it up even another level in terms of what we're doing right now.
I know this is going to probably seem a bit unfair, especially considering it hasn't been disastrous last two games, but Bayern worries me more at Brentford away than he would at Chelsea at home,
Yes. Yes.
because I think that Bayern
Yep.
is going to be put under big physical pressure at home. At some point, United are going to have to think about this with their reserve goalkeeper. And by the way,
Yep.
on a sequitur related to that, I didn't like Paul Scholes coming out and saying, "What did we pay for this Belgian guy?" First of all,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
Paul Scholes had come out and been positive about Lamens, it would have meant the world to him.
Yeah.
But and by the way, Solskjaer cost 1.5 million. Cantona
Yeah.
cost 1.2 million, right? So Schmeichel cost 500 grand. So I didn't like if he gives you a reason to criticize him. But this is a young goalkeeper coming in who could really use one thing about Liverpool ex players and stuff, that they don't do this to
I know. I know.
get behind their players, and very, very difficult to extract criticism of them. Now, admittedly, they're playing exceptionally well, so it's easy to praise them right now. But to me, if this young goalkeeper coming in, and what had Donnarumma cost City? 25, wasn't it? So
Hmm.
it wasn't that much more, but obviously paid a lot more. I didn't think that comment was necessary. But Bandier would worry me away against Brentford.
I agree, and I really hope we can get Lawmans going soon
Hmm.
into there, because there's still very little that Bayindir does for me that gives me any
Mm.
faith. I mean, it's not like, he's one thing he's done well. Again, he had the pass that went to Šeško, that went to Mbumo, and I gotta say that like a huge positive over him to Onana is when he kicks the ball, it's staying in play, which is a
Yeah.
big improvement over what we were seeing under Onana, where every goal kick was a throw in for the opposition. And now that's not the case. So I got to give that to Binders. Passing has been relatively good, but you're going to defend against some really direct attacks on a team like Brentford that are going to come in. And every corner, I'm still terrified. At every cross that comes in, I'm still like,
100%.
because I could look at the one that they did score and think, I can see many keepers come out and claim that. I can put it on Lenny,
Jeez.
but when is a keeper going to come out and do that? You know what I mean?
Look, he had a warning with Fofana,
Yeah.
the one that was disallowed. And Fofana's right on top of him, a header on the 6 yard box without being challenged.
Yep.
And it was essentially a repeat of the Fofana situation with Chalobah.
Yep.
I want my keeper to come and go right through Chalobah,
Yeah.
right? Your
Yes.
goalkeepers come out, you go for the ball, you'll get away with it. However, there was one time where I saw a corner come in that he got a hand to it. He fisted it and punched
Yep.
it, and he didn't fist the ball. He punched the ball, and Jesus Christ, I have no idea how that popped into my head. But I he cleared the ball, right, and I was like, okay, we've the lowest bar in the world, right? It was
Yep.
encouraging, but it did concern me that Chelsea had two headers in the 6 yard box, essentially. I mean, I still
Yep.
think Lenny Yoro's responsible for
Yeah.
the most responsible for
Sure.
Chalobah, but that presence that worries me. And I just I don't know. I want to see Lamans get a game, but at the same time, it's if Amorim puts him in and he doesn't look ready, he will get slaughtered. So
Yeah.
but he has to be better than Bandier, because I think that the longer you keep him in, James,
Yep.
the probability significantly increases that I don't want to have another situation where United lose a game due to a goalkeeping error. I'm just sick of them.
I know. I know.
So,
A,
but to be
a
fair, he
part of me
hasn't been
wonders.
terrible last two games.
Yeah, a part of me wonders: are we waiting for the FA Cup? To see, because
Mm,
obviously you're getting that first round. I mean, that's a ways away, though. I mean, that's first
that's
of
January.
November. No, 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 November, isn't it? The
Oh, did
first
they win
round
the FA Cup
proper.
for third? Wait, the third round of the FA Cup is when United go into it.
Is it that
FA
late that
Cup.
they play? I thought
Yeah,
because we
it's
finished
January.
lower, we start earlier because just like the League Cup, but I
Yeah,
could be
third
totally wrong.
round. But
Okay, yeah, yeah. Well,
uh,
that'd be ways away if it was for that. You
yeah,
know what I mean? But
it was.
but yeah, I mean, I agree. It's like it's hard because you look at it and you go, when I don't know. I would make the change, but at the same time, you still do look at it and say, well, if you would come off a win against Chelsea, if you make the change against Brentford, and then Lamens has some error, mistake, and it costs you, it hurts a lot. It hurts a lot in
Yeah,
that case, and you'll get blamed for changing, and the keeper will get a blame piled on them for costing United more when we already kind of know, with Bayendier. I don't know. It's
these are the decisions they get paid to make,
yeah,
Jamesy.
they got to get
That's
the
what
right
means.
one.
That's the difference between
I don't have the answer,
the,
but you're the professionals.
the
So get it done.
that's I'd say that is the difference between what top managers get, and but that's where you know
If we win, it's
a
the
lot
right
of
call, right? That's the
well,
thing.
geez,
If we win, it's the
a
right
lot
call.
of well, a lot of people talk about Mark Robins' goal at Forest when Ferguson in the FA Cup,
Yeah,
being such a pivotal goal in the trajectory of United's history. But there's another, and I mentioned this before, key decision that very rarely gets mentioned, and that
yeah,
was the call that Ferguson made to drop Jim Leighton, his goalkeeper that he brought from Aberdeen, and play Les Sealy as number two. That decision got won United the FA Cup because Les Sealy was brilliant in the replay in 1990. And they almost threw that FA Cup away in the first game when they finished 3-3 with Palace, with Jim Leighton made a couple of big errors in that game. Second game, he brings in Les Sealy. United win the FA Cup. Sealy plays in the European Cup Winners' Cup final as well. That decision right there may have been more pivotal than the Mark Robbins one. This is what I'm saying, where these big managers get this is where they get these big decisions right. So it's definitely it's one that Amorim has to get right. And look, sometimes you get lucky. The ability to sign Eric Cantona, it wasn't the result of a process. It wasn't the result of a forensic scouting. It was just a bit of fortune, serendipitous luck that went their way at a key moment that had a massive impact on the future of the football club. So it's not an easy decision that Amorim has to get right, mate. But I don't know. I just think that yeah, his most important responsibility right now is to win right now,
yeah,
and
yeah,
let the future handle itself. Um, Let me ask you about Jim Ratcliffe coming out there last week. A bit a lot was made over his meeting with Ruben Amorim. Um, whether this is fair or not, when David Moyes was sacked, he was sacked in his first season because he wasn't Ed Woodward's choice.
yep,
Inevitably, once you have people that you hire yourself, they get a lot more leeway than the guy you
yeah.
sacked who wasn't your guy.
Of course,
So I've never felt that Ruben Amorim's been on the verge of the sack, right?
no,
I don't think he'd have been sacked if United had lost yesterday. But and I still think it was routine that Jim Ratcliffe was there. But what was your take on what happened there last week?
Well, it's kind of that. I mean, we know that one of the things that one of the things that factors into that matters, and I think is a fair reason why sometimes when someone picks someone, they're more likely to give them a little leeway. Is that factor of communication, right? They know
Mhm.
how they communicate. They know they can communicate to them. They know what the terms they were brought in under are, right? And I think that one of the reasons Amram hasn't been under as much pressure as has been maybe let on, in media and all of that, is because of the terms of his hiring. Ten Hag wasn't hired by Ineos. Ten Hag wasn't brought in by them, so they were very ready to cut ties very quickly, as if they could, because it wasn't under their terms, right? It wasn't the way they wanted things
Mhm.
done. So I think from Jim Ratcliffe's standpoint, he's looking at it and saying, I just want to come in and he's I just want to come in and make sure, like, why do you look so stressed every time anything happens and you're like ready to talking about leaving and these kinds of things? Like, why is that going on? That's how he would see it as an owner. And I think that was maybe more the subject of the discussion, even because I will say Ruben Amorim looked way more relaxed in that press conference before Chelsea. Way more relaxed. He was making jokes about a new contract and this and that. And it wasn't
Hope.
like, the Pope, and it was like he didn't change his mind, obviously, but he was like, because I don't think that's what Sir Jim's there to do. And frankly, to me, that's still a very, very good thing. You want owners interested in winning, but you definitely don't want them coming in and saying, well, why don't you change formation? Like Todd Bowley said, go to a 4-4-3.
Yeah,
It's like, come on,
James.
get out of here. Like,
Amorim is dead if he
yeah.
abandons,
Hmm.
because what was the point of United players being asked to suffer if
Yes.
he now turns around and goes, you know what? I
Never
don't
mind.
even have confidence in my methods. You're dead at that point. Now, what he
Yeah.
can do is he can have variation within a system. And
Yes.
by the way, he changed the formation at the weekend when he went to four at the back.
Yeah.
If he turns this around and is successful, every struggling manager for the next 20 years is going to use Ruben Amorim as an example to keep the fucking job.
Well, there is an interesting one, to be fair. In Arteta's first season, he had them
Mhm,
15th by Christmas. They were in 15th by
mhm,
Christmas, and they went on this like 11 game streak where the only win was against United, obviously. Just it would be, right? The only win they had was against United in that 11 game period, and they were 15th by Christmas. They end the season in
mhm.
fifth.
Yeah.
They climbed, or I think maybe it was eighth. It doesn't matter, but they ended the second half of the season. They were really, really good.
Mhm,
And he kind of was like, he did this and said, look, we're rebuilding the club. We're just going to have to fight through it. It's funny. They played Chelsea to end this really long streak of suffering, one. And from there, it all clicked and took off. Maybe the
mhm,
same will happen to United. The chances, the odds are, we draw too many patterns, obviously, as human beings. It's natural between one thing and the next. But yeah, I completely agree with you, but it's also a different point to me as well. He's not changing because he doesn't think his system is the problem. So saying, well, it's not working, change it. And he's going, well, but it's not the issue. If he genuinely thought his system was the issue, then he would probably be willing to change it, or he'd be willing to leave the job. But if he doesn't think the system's the problem, why would he change it? That would be stupid.
mhm.
Like, if anything, if you didn't think that was what was wrong, why would you change what you think isn't the problem,
Yeah, I mean, look, you can evolve as you learn, and you can make, incremental amendments and moderations to it, but you can't change your ideology or your philosophy, right? So you
Yeah.
can change your opinions, but you can't change the ideology or your morals or ethics that led you to hold those opinions in your first place.
Yeah.
So, to me, his philosophy, and he has to believe in his philosophy and what he's doing. Yes, you can have variation within the system, like we said, or amendments that are not a compromise of his values. He can make an amendment within a game because the game necessitates it, not because he's trying to get validation from other people and say,
Yeah.
"Oh shit,
Yeah.
maybe you're right." Once you do that, it's over, James. You're dead,
Yeah.
right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, because at that point you lose all trust. And once you lose trust in people that you lead, then it's over. It's just a waiting game. So it's better for him. I remember when David Moyes was criticized for bringing in his own people. He had to bring in his own people, right?
Hmm.
When if you go back and look at how United handled Matt Busby's transition, Frank O'Farrell and all complained about the fact that they weren't these players were still going to Busby and calling him boss. He still had the manager's
Yeah.
office. All the old guard was still there. It's very difficult to transition a football club when you do that. So I still think Moyes was right to do what he did, but failed. And Amorim is right to die. He was hired for his vision, his system. He was hired for
Yep.
all the things that he's being asked to compromise. So it's
Well, that
correct.
was my kind of my point on the ownership is like they know why they
Yeah,
hired him, you know. So
yeah,
sometimes it's reinforcing, like, look, we hired you because what you did at Sporting. That's what we want you to
correct.
do here. So don't worry about that, but figure out how to win some games, and all of that is essentially the conversation.
Well, we're second best at being someone else. We're only the best at being ourselves. And so that trying to copy someone else or trying do what you believe is right. It might be
Yep.
wrong, but that's the only thing that you're good at. Okay, Mel, it's we're almost done, almost out. Very, very happy podcast. Not like last week where you were a bit unruly, but
Was I?
you know,
It was me. I
I
apologize. You know how I can be,
uh,
right?
yeah, it's just you have to calm down a bit, man. Get a hold of
Yeah.
yourself. I was feeling threatened. Fat shamed me and everything. We will be back again later on in the week if there's something worth talking about. If not, we'll be back again next Monday. But thanks to all of you for all your downloads, likes, retweets, everything else. I appreciate all of the yous who marked me safe on Facebook after last week and keeping an eye on my safety. I appreciate that very much. Jamesy, all the best, matey.
Yep.
And see you later on the week, mate. All the best,
So yeah,
pal.
thank you all. Bye.
See you.